parents, educators, students, warm welcome to MOE's series on Insights to a World Beyond School. We're very happy to have you here join us for this live Facebook session. And for today, we want to talk about some things to raise awareness on what is happening in the world beyond school. This program is aiming to support parents, educators and students to discover and gain insights, right, on the industry and the competencies required beyond school so that our children will be better prepared for the future, right? So we're hoping that you will have a good time and that staff have spent considerable amount of time and effort thinking and putting together this series. So if you have a virtual affirmation for them, give them a thumbs up, put in a little thank you to them, give them a virtual appreciation. So my name is James Satchy. I'm a family life educator with Touch Community Services. I'm leading the Touch Parenting Division, where we conduct workshops and parenting education for parents, including consultation, coaching, and counseling for parents. Right, so I'm very happy to be the moderator and also be part of the panel today. So before I introduce my panelists over here, let me just introduce the topic a little bit, okay? So what are we going to discuss tonight? Why do we need to prepare our children for the future of work? Why do we need to prepare them, right? When we talk about the world beyond school, you and I will live in that world. We know that world, right? And for some of us, our education was adequate for that world. For some of us, that education was not adequate. You wish you had something better to prepare you for today's world. That was 10, 20 years ago, right? So you know that there is something more that could be helpful for you. You also would have recognized the global environment is becoming increasingly volatile, right? Wars, natural disasters, pandemics. The effects have made our lives uncertain. Some problems are so complex, it's not easy to solve. And the future is ambiguous. It's unclear what is going to happen. The nature of industries and jobs are evolving at a fast pace. The economy is uncertain. Some jobs have already been taken over by AI, artificial intelligence. So what is relevant today may or may not be relevant in the near future. So the future economy will place new demands on our students, on our children's knowledge, skill sets and competencies. Will they be future ready? So most parents, educators, we want to have a say. We want to do something to impart and input into our children and students. And that's why you're here today, right? We play a key role in developing and encouraging the youth. So our discussion today will evolve around the current and changing industry and job landscape. What values, attitudes, mindsets, competencies are needed to be relevant and successful? How do we balance these with academic grades? How parents and educators and teachers and counselors can aid in guiding and supporting our youth. So some simple ground rules. We're going to stay on topic, or at least we're going to try to stay on topic, right? And the panel will not be answering some of the questions, even though it may be very good questions, if it's not on topic. I trust you will be respectful. I trust that you will practice good social media etiquette, so I have no problem with that. And you're welcome to share your own experiences, tips, strategies in the chat, okay? And your questions, of course, we'll be taking your questions as we go along. So let me turn to my panelists over here, and they're all very experienced and they are very seasoned, and we just want to ask them to introduce themselves. So we have Christian Westbeld. He's a managing director of Raffles Hotel. So Christian, would you like to share with us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, James, and good evening, everybody. True pleasure and honor to be here tonight and maybe add a little bit of value and insights about the hospitality industry. I've been the managing director at Raffles Singapore for 6 years. I've been with the hotel for about 10 years and with the Raffles brand around the world for about 15, 16 years. I've been in the industry for about 25 years, so I have given away my age a bit. And of course, I didn't start as a managing director. Actually, the first jobs that I had were part of an apprenticeship and management trainee. And for the first couple of weeks, I did work in housekeeping and clean bathrooms, made beds, and changed rooms for new guests. And the second part was a page boy, which was probably the most fun part I've ever done in the hospitality sector. Looking forward to being a panelist with you. Thank you, James.
Thank you for being here. We're going to learn a lot from you, from your industry experience. And Melissa Low, she is a council member of National Youth Council. Would you like to tell us more about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, James, and thank you for having me. My name is Melissa. I'm a research fellow at the National University of Singapore. I look at climate change research, but as James introduced me, I'm a council member for the National Youth Council, and I also volunteer as a chief curator for the National Youth Council's Young Changemakers program. It's a grant program where we offer money to young people who have good projects that look at youth and community services.
Yeah, money is always good.
It is.
Yeah.
Support is always good.
Support is always
Yes.
good. And we thank you for being here also today.
Thank you for
And
having me.
we're looking forward to hear how you develop young people, right? Mentor young people. And we have a young person here, right? And Denise Teng. Denise, want to introduce a little bit of yourself?
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Denise Teng. So I'm a final year scholar pursuing a diploma in early childhood development and education with a minor in social leadership at Ngee Ann Polytechnic, and it's an honor to be here to share my experiences with you. So as the youngest person on this panel, I hope I bring a lot to the table. Yes?
I'm sure you will. Okay, I as a parent want to understand the industry, the youth, and I definitely want to put myself in the shoes of youth. Right? I've got two teenagers myself, so I'm looking forward to this time. I'm sure many parents and educators are also looking forward, and let's see how the conversation goes, right? And I will try to add in a little bit of the parenting angle. I'll try to add in a little bit of parenting angle where I can, okay, which is useful tips and strategies. Okay, let's start with the first question here. And this question is for Christian and Melissa.
Yeah, I think this is a critical element of looking back at myself when I was at the age of probably some of your children on this call. I was about 18 years old. I wasn't 100% sure what I was about to do after secondary school. A lot of conversations with my mom, with family, friends, went for a career counselor as well, had access to it. Initially I wanted to be a banker. My mom is a banker, and I felt that was what I wanted to do. But at one point it's like, that's not where my passion, that's not where my love is. And it happened to be hospitality. That was actually the career counselor and my mother who figured out that's what you love, to be around people, to travel, learn about different cultures. So I embarked on that journey, probably very different than youth are actually looking at the industry right now. I did an apprenticeship, did studies, but I accepted a role for $80 in the Philippines at that time for a management trainee program. Paid for my own air ticket, had no career progression beyond those 6 months. And I think we're living in a very, very different world where the industries actually have the responsibility to create a career path, to create a remuneration package that is not making millionaires out of everybody, but that gives a little bit of security and builds a foundation. But then I think also the industry needs to create that framework of why does young talent join us in regards to sustainability, doing the right ethical things. What does it mean to work for that organization? And I think that's quite significantly different. I chose to work at that organization in the Philippines because I wanted to specifically work with certain industry professionals and for a certain brand at that point in time. And I think that has changed. Plus loyalty. I've been with the company, as I said already, for 15 years plus. I think this is all adapting. Whoever has the greatest experience, whoever has the hottest new trend, I think that plays a role. And for the youth to experience this is, I think, great right now.
So you were driven by passion. Do you see that kind of passion in the younger generation that you're hiring today? Or yes, you did talk a little bit about pay and they want career progression, maybe they want things like that, but do you see that passion in them?
I do. I see the passion in young individuals when we have conversations at career fairs or with the mentees I have in the hotel and young interns. There's passion to be of service and understand the trait of being a hotelier. The passion sort of fades away when you start talking about the working hours, the evening hours, the working on weekends, the public holidays. And I went through this myself, and I talked about the washroom cleaning, or I pureed 5 kilograms of garlic. And for 1 week, my mother had to endure that sensation at home. But coming back to topic, I think it's the passion that I still have for the industry, and that helped me also grow and build on what I love to do. And there's a saying around, if you love what you do all the time, you actually don't have to work a single day of your life. Now, this is slightly different with the hours we put in, but I still enjoy very, very much what I do, and I can see that in all of the colleagues that I have in the hotel. And I think that's something that is very important. If you love what you do, you automatically become good at it as well.
Melissa, how can we help youth love what they do? That's a secret ingredient.
Yeah, so I actually relate very much to Christian's story, because I've also been in my workplace for 12 years now, and I think partly it's because of my upbringing. My dad worked for a single company for 35 years.
Wow.
And so I think parents are really role models for their children. And my mom is in the travel industry, my dad's in maritime, and they all worked in their industries for a long time. They didn't really quite switch. And in a way, I learned that and I applied that in my life. I do see workplace trends changing, and I see, even as a manager myself now at work, I do worry a lot about loyalties, right? And I worry that my staff will leave me, and but of course to better things. I do think that workplace trends are changing, but not necessarily for better or for worse. I think it really depends on what individuals want. A lot of what young people want, in my observation, based on my observation, is about self-actualization. And in order to support your children and your, whether they're young children or older children, it's really about giving them the space to come into their own. I think education is not just formal, for sure. I was very supported at home. My parents said, study whatever you want, and so I chose geography, right? And then I just decided I would go on and do a couple master's degrees, and now I'm doing my PhD. Again, education is not formal. I learned a lot of things outside of formal education, just as much as in the workplace, but also from people around me. So I think the best you can do is really be supportive. Listen to what your children want. Don't try and compare them. Also understand that there's a lot of noise around, and what people might say. I'm on Instagram a bit, and I realized that there's a lot of advice that people are giving about workplace. Ask for 20% pay increase when you leave.
Yeah.
Hello, that's not really realistic. And I've been in one job for how many years? You know that you're penalized in a way, because you don't get that much increment over time. But where I work, it's given me so much opportunities that is immeasurable.
So what would you say that youth really need? What kind of characteristic they need so that they can adjust or they can adapt, besides adaptability, which they need, but what kind of can you articulate that kind of characteristic they think they need to educate them?
Yeah, well, at least for me, in my own journey, I felt that having supportive system at home, right? Supportive families, supportive parents who allowed me to choose my own course of study, of course with some practical advice, right? And then allowing me to evolve on my own. Quietly supporting, asking the right questions. Are you alright? Are you okay? And also allowing them to make mistakes. That's so important. I think I've made enough mistakes through my education journey. But those mistakes are good, because then you get to learn.
So mistakes are really good if we are teachable, we can process, and we have someone to process with, supportive family. Denise, tell us, you seem to be pursuing a passion, right? And can you just share with us, how did you discover this passion?
Okay, so when I was younger, I wanted to be a doctor. So when my parents asked me why I wanted to be a doctor, I realized it was because I wanted to help people. Then when I went on to primary school, I changed what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to be a lawyer. Same thing, they asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I also wanted to help people. So I found that there was a recurring theme, right? The recurring theme of wanting to help people. So what I did was I went to study early childhood development and education, and during that time I also wanted to help people. So that led me to apply for an internship with the Ministry of Social and Family Development with Child Protective Service. So that was where I could really use what I've learned in my diploma and also help people at the same time. So during then I responded to cases, I helped children to improve the environment around them. Yeah, so I think I would really encourage youths to really just go forth and discover what you really want to do. Don't be afraid of failures and don't be afraid to fall, because if you fall, you can always stand back, right? Yeah, so I think that's very important.
Yeah, and I think except for my kids, I always tell them the same things, that you got to explore, you got to be teachable. I think that characteristic of teachability, which is something that you mentioned and we all kind of like hinted on it, is so important, because if you are teachable, you can adapt. If you are teachable, if you fail, you can pick yourself up, right? But some people, they don't like failing because that's such a pain. That's such a pain. I'm interested, Denise, and I think a lot of people here are interested. What role did your parents play? You did share a little bit of your parents just sort of accepting, but in your own words, what role did your parents play to sort of stir your passion or guide you or put you on the right path?
I think for me, my parents really enabled me to have access to opportunities. So I didn't have to worry about money, or I didn't have to worry about, am I really choosing an internship that will benefit my portfolio? It's more of really having the opportunity to explore what I wanted to do. And because my parents enabled me to have that opportunity, I was really able to pursue my passion, do what I love, and now I'm better able to understand myself and what I hope to get from my future job.
So your parents are kind of releasing. I think that's important, right? For parents to allow children to explore.
I think these unexpected challenges, they are what defines us when we are in the real working life. And they will teach us a lot that we will not learn out of books. You can take the pandemic that we've recently gone through. Nobody can plan for this on a theoretical level, but it is what you make out of it. So in specific, probably to the question, look at every challenge that is in front of you and tackle it accordingly to make the best out of it. School and university will prepare a framework that is a skill set that graduates will have. The industry is the case study and a real life example. And it is actually, I think you mentioned it, and we touched on this around the panel, sometimes it's the failures that define us. And you always learn from great leaders, you learn as well, fantastic things, but also from the leaders that you might not enjoy, that are giving you a hard time. Look at hospitality industry 20, 30 years ago. You saw knives flying in the kitchens. If you follow the reality TV shows about culinary, it's still acted upon that way. If you go in the real world right now, in culinary teams, you have gentlemen preparing youth to grow and have passion and love for the industry. So they're getting prepared for this current environment of real world case studies. And I think that's the benefit of being in the industry, being in a real world environment where mistakes happen, but you can learn so much out of mistakes. And I think you mentioned it. Mistakes are okay. Don't repeat them, don't for a second time and third time, but take as much out of it as possible.
Yeah. I was reading a book by Daniel Cole. It's called The Talent Code. And he talks about making mistakes is actually good for you, but he talks about the signs. When you make a mistake, there's something called myelin in your body. Yeah, it sort of grows and thickens, and the more it grows and it thickens, it is the better. You're better at that skill. So we try a skill, we try a skill, and you want to learn that skill, you must keep pushing yourself a little bit more, and the myelin grows and you become even more proficient in it. So mistakes are actually good physiologically also. Denise, you want to chime in on this? Maybe can you, if it's not too difficult, can you think of a challenge that you went through and how you kind of overcame?
Yeah, so I think one thing that you struggle with, maybe children as well, is overthinking. So personally, overthinking was also a something that really like prevented me from achieving what I wanted to do. So I felt that overthinking limited my own ability. But when I realized that I was overthinking, like I think I had a conversation with my parents as well. To be more specific, for example, I was planning to apply for a scholarship, and because I wasn't very academically bright in secondary school, I would say like that was what made me worried that I would not get this scholarship. So my parents kind of sat me down and had a chat with me about that. So when I had a chat with parents, I also wrote down like what are the pros and cons. I weighed it out and I wrote it down on a piece of paper. And I realized that the con for me to not apply for a scholarship was just that I would fail. Right? That fear of failure, because I was overthinking, was something that limited myself to applying for this scholarship. So then it was just like, my parents were like, hey, only one con, why not just try, right? Just go ahead, try. If you fail, then you know how you can better yourself next time. So then I actually applied for the scholarship at Ngee Ann Poly and I got that scholarship. So I really just want to encourage youths, please don't overthink your any actions or anything that has happened, because you may be what is limiting yourself and it may not be your actual ability that is limiting you. Yeah.
Can I add something there? I think that parents, since the question is from parents, right? I did want to mention that also I think parents, it's important for you yourself to know your children and to have the emotional maturity to deal with the unexpected challenges. So I'm thinking, because sometimes if I draw on my own experience, sometimes I'm scared to tell my mother some things because I know what she will say, right? And I'm worried to go home and explain to her that something bad happened to me or experience, and she'll be like, see, you see? So I guess what I want to tell parents out there also is, you also have to rein in your own feelings sometimes. And even if you were worried or concerned about your child, there are ways to go about it, right? And explain. Maybe you can take a minute, walk around, and then figure out how to engage your children after that, because that can instill fear in your children that they don't want to come and talk to you anymore with their problems, with their unexpected challenges. And I think in my household, my family experience, my dad was a lot more measured, right? And most of us go to him first, my sisters and I go to him first, then we'll figure out a way to tell my mom the bad news, right, if there were any. But I think being open to conversation is so important, and being the first people that your children want to speak to is so important.
You know, Christian, I don't know whether you identify with me. Sometimes, you know, as fathers, we want to be so protective about our children. My daughter also overthinks, and I tell her this is her strength, because she is conscientious. That's why you overthink, because you really want to be successful. But it can also be your weakness. But you know, sometimes I have to watch myself. Like Melissa said, I want to be open to them. I want to create safe ground. I want them to keep coming back to me, you know. But sometimes what happens is I shut them off with a quick judgment, you know. So that's a good reminder. That's a good reminder to Christian, you identify with that?
I can't agree more with you. A lot of times, and over the years, I try to teach myself, just don't take what my mom told me, and bring it down in. And I've been catching myself for the last couple of years very quickly to make that decision and judgments like, no, we can't do it because. And it takes a lot of self-control, discipline, and trust as well in your child to let the unexpected happen. Because let's look at James and I. We've been around for a while. We grew up probably wild. I remember myself playing on the streets, soccer, going out with friends, and just being a young boy. And my mom was very protective, but it was not possible to prepare me for everything that was uncertain, not known, and I think we all turned out quite okay. And if you, I think, allow your child to express himself, and go through these unexpected moments, it will create a massive amount of self-confidence, perseverance, as well how to maybe deal with conflict, deal with the unexpected, and you then build that little individual up to become something that is able to make a decision and actually come to the conclusion like, this is exactly the job that I want, this is my passion, I understand now what I want and what I don't want. Sometimes it's not what you want, but it's more like what you don't want as well.
And you know, one thing that helps me sometimes, you know, to listen more, one thing that helps me is I just tell myself, you know, over and over again that I want to hear what my son or my daughter is thinking. You know, and I tell myself that sometimes I don't like to hear what they're thinking. It's just not what I want to hear, you know, but it's good for me to hear. And so I tell it to them. I said that even if you tell me something that I don't like to hear, I want to hear it. I need to hear it, right? And so that's good. That's encouraging, Denise, to hear your parents are like that, and thumbs up to Denise's parents, okay?
Maybe I can start this one.
Yeah.
So I love to read, and my first book that I can recollect was from my dad's collection. He has a bookshelf at home. He still has a bookshelf at home, and I read a lot. I run a book swap called Books and Beer, and you know I read a lot. I was just telling Denise earlier, my aim is to read 52 books this year, one book a week. And I really think that it's true, you know. So this question from Ethan, I completely agree. The desire to learn and grow, for me, is reading, but it could be other things, discovering strengths in sports or other interests. Definitely support your kids while they're young, but at the same time also recognize that some of us are late bloomers, right? So I also mentioned, you know, earlier that, and some of you know, I actually started doing a lot of what I do today in my 30s, early 30s, when I was started to get involved in the National Youth Council. So it's okay, even if they don't you know, pursue some of these interests when they are younger, like in their early youth, like from 15 onwards. It's okay, just support them quietly, encourage the learning, encourage them to grow personal development, and maybe when the right opportunities present themselves, then they can grab those opportunities.
How do we increase desire? How do we increase interest?
Lead by example.
Lead by example.
I'll pick up on that. I like that a lot, Melissa. I think it's creating opportunities, and for parents to really be there. Let me go back in myself. I'm a single child. I grew up with my mom, and it wasn't easy, but despite that fact, she managed to create all opportunities that I was looking for. We didn't live very lush, and we didn't have everything that we wanted to have. But if I look back, I had everything that I needed as a child and growing up. Plus, she provided the opportunities that I was, at that time, not knowing that I want them or need them, but they were there and the doors were open, and I went through. And it's a similar way with Melissa. I actually graduated only when I was 28 years old. So after high school, national service, 2.5 years of apprenticeship and management training, and then a 4-year study course. And my mom was there. Financially supportive, not all the way, because she's saying like, at one point, you know, you got to stand on your own way, so savings came in. But we were a team, and I knew I could fall back onto my mom if I needed to, for advice, for support, financially if I needed, which I didn't want to because I had enough pride for that. And now if I look back, I'm able to give back a lot, and it has fostered a great relationship. So providing opportunities, being a family all the way through, and this is not meant in any way as any critique or judgment, but sometimes I hear it's like, oh, when you're 18 you need to be out of the house, and some of my friends back at home, it's like, but if your child is not ready to be out there on her own, it's just, these kind of rules don't exist. It should be harmonic. It should be team focused and opportunity providing in my view.
So we have create opportunities, we have example. Denise, anything?
Yeah, I actually just wanted to chime in. So on top of like creating opportunities, I think it's also to encourage your child to actually take up the opportunities. Because for me personally, I had many opportunities throughout my education journey to actually explore the world. So like one of the competencies now is about having that global awareness, right? So in order to achieve that global awareness, it's really about taking up opportunities that allow you to take on that global perspective. So for me, I recently just came back from a trip to Australia. So that trip to Australia was held. It was called the Overseas Merit Fellowship. So this was a program held by Ngee Ann Polytechnic as well as the University of Queensland. So it was on the topic of sustainability. And as an early childhood student, there's actually little to no link between sustainability and early childhood. But because I was able to go on this trip, because my parents encouraged me to take up this opportunity, I now have that global perspective of what is being done on a global scale, and how they're actually doing it to achieve a more sustainable future. So I think as my parents, when we initially talked about it, it was like a 16-day trip. So they were wondering, wow, you go so long, 16 days, you're not scared? You know, like attachment or anything? It's like, no, I want to explore. And I think they really, because they encouraged me to explore, I was really able to like thoroughly enjoy my trip and thoroughly immerse myself in the entire topic of the trip. Yeah.
I think the idea of the growth mindset, that's what you're kind of displaying, right? Yeah. And I think many parents, they want their children to have growth mindset. They want their children to be teachable. They want their children to explore. But you know, sometimes the child says, I don't want to. How do we encourage that? How do we encourage that more? Any ideas?
I think it would be to find their passion. Because if you have a passion for something, there's this innate thing in you to want to learn more about that. So if parents sit down with their children and have that discussion about maybe what their passion is, like how Christian mentioned that talking to a life coach actually told him like what his interests are, or like maybe how, like really just point them in a direction, because he found out that he wanted to help people, so he knew what industry to explore, right? So if parents kind of help their child find out what their passion are and encourage them to take out opportunities in that aspect, I think that will be very encouraging for them. Yeah.
That's good. You know, I was just recently encouraging my children to go to the Skills Future Festival. So they have it until 18th of August, Skills Future Festival. And so the immediate reaction from one of my children, I won't tell you my son or my daughter, one of them said, only a certain kind of person goes for that, okay? So we don't go, we're too cool for it, so to speak. And so I said, why don't you just open up? Because it's so cool, because it's hybrid now, you know, and they got a calendar of events over there. I say, and it's not long, it's like 1 hour talks, and it expose you to the industry. And so one of my children said, I already know what I want to do, so I don't need, so I said, never mind, just explore, you know. And so finally, with a little bit of reluctance and all that, he said, okay, I will go. So I encouraged him. I said, you know, why don't you get your friends involved? You know, go over there, have a good time, you know, learn something, you know. And so that idea sort of appealed to him. So sometimes doing things together with their friends can encourage them. Yeah, and you know, the Skills Future Festival is very good, and so that's something parents you can consider, either going with your children or encouraging them to go with their friends. Give them $50, they go and treat your friends at a food court or a restaurant, you know, have some fun. Okay.
Can I pick up on that actually? Because I noticed that I think you know your children very well, and you have this ability to communicate with them and also incentivize them, right, to do things. And I think that's something so important to share with our audience today, because if you don't take the time to get to know your kids, or you don't know yourself and what you're able to do and how you communicate it, you won't be able to convey. So sometimes what you might say might be, you know, in Asia, in Singapore especially, it's tough love, right? Sometimes parents have this way of saying things that it's like it's emotional damage, you know, but then sometimes it's you know your kids. So for me, I'm motivated by sometimes discouraging things that my parents might say, because I know they have my best interests at heart. But it's just the way they say it can hurt maybe my siblings, right? They might be a bit more sensitive. But for me, I take it as a motivating factor. So if you know your kids very well and you know what pushes them, then it's about communication. It's the art of communication, right?
You know, Christian, it looks like we parents, we really need to change. We need to learn. We need to grow. Even as we talk about 21st century skills for our kids, we need 21st century parenting. What do you think about that?
I can't agree more. I think if we take our parents as a benchmark, what I hear from my mom right now is like she thinks we're completely technology advanced. If I look back or if I look down, what young children are being exposed to right now at a certain age will be outdated and older. So I think we have the benefit of being a generation that has grown up with a mobile device. And I think we can actually grow together with our children, but I think we have to be adaptable too, and full focus on that young individual and that young mind. How is it developing? Is it to be an educational university mind? Is it an industry, a handcraft, craftsmanship? individual that wants to create something by hand? Is it somebody that is athletic? Not. I think you mentioned that understanding your child is key to that. So I think it's never been more difficult to be a parent than right now. I think my mom would say the same thing. And we have to stay current.
So we want our kids to be agile, right? We want them to be adaptable. We want them to be respectful in communication. I think we as parents, we need to learn how to be that first. Respect our kids in our communication and things like that. And talking about understanding our kids, if you go to the Skills Future website, you will see something called the RIASEC assessment of code. And Christian alluded to that when he talked about some of them may be hands-on, some of them may be more analytical, and even Denise shared a little bit about how she discovered that she was a helping person. So the RIASEC code, the RIASEC assessment, ask your kids to do it, and then you talk to them through it. But like we've been talking about, talking over here, that we need to grow as parents. We need to be teachable as parents, right? Because if we don't go and explore all these websites, we won't be able to talk to our kids. We won't be able to understand our kids, right? So that's a good reminder for me. I always tell myself, I got to grow with my kids. Can I start off? Can I kick this off? And then you guys, because this reminds me of the interest of one of my children, right? When she was younger, she wants to play the guitar. Then she wants a drum set, right? The drum set was in her room for many years, unused, right? But I said, okay, I bought that guitar. She's hanging it up nicely as a decoration right now, right? Hopefully one day she'll bring it down and start playing. But I gave her, I sent her for a course, for a 3 to 6 month course, kind of a boundary to help her to just get adjusted. And I invested some of these things. Some people say it's wasted money, but I just want to pick and expose them, like you were saying, expose them. So the recent one that happened to me was my son wants a billiard table. It's $300 billiard table, $300. And I know that billiard table is going to be folded and put somewhere, after a while. But I said, let's expose him. You never know, right? So you want to chime in on this?
Well, first of all, I think that sometimes distraction from being focused on anything is actually, it's coming from some sentiment. It could be fear of disappointment, fear of failure. So I think it's good to explore with your child or your children, what is it that's hindering them from completing that task, right, or that interest. I learned it very recently only, even in my own experience, right, that sometimes I get distracted from my research. I find all sorts of reasons not to do it. Procrastination. It's so, everyone goes through those moments, right? And I think it's important to realize and reflect with your child, have them reflect on what's actually preventing them from finishing that interest or task. And quite often, more often than not, it stems from some form of innate, deep-seated sentiment that they're not addressing. They're distracting themselves from it. Yeah.
So you think that there should be a time frame, or how would you manage or navigate that? Some of your youth, they must be doing that, right? You must have started something and said,
Sometimes you also got to let them decide for themselves. Yeah. If I'm a peer with the youth that I work with, I'm not in a position of I'm not their parent, I'm only their friends, and I can only tell them so much, I can give them so much advice only. And sometimes you just got to stand by and support them. Yeah. I think as a parent it's quite different, right? I mean, you have some say in what they do. You can be encouraging, discouraging, and give them advice. But I think as mentors and friends, you also have to let people live their lives. Yeah.
Christian, would you do it? What would you do?
Yeah, this is a tough nut to crack. I think if we figure this out, we would be successful in the education sector, all of us. I think it's about at what age level a child makes these kind of decisions. Again, this is personal view, please, there's no scientific backup here. I'm just going out on a limb. If I look within our family, and there's a 6-year-old at home, when the interest came up, it was amazing. And I think we could tell there was true passion and affection about certain things that were picked up. and then suddenly it ended. And it was a bit of a surprise because you think you know your child well, so being a tiger dad a bit, starting to analyze and dig a bit. It's like why will your child drop that interest that was loved 2 days ago? And sometimes it's already at a young age peer pressure, somebody in a group that is not liked, that is a bit of a bully. And I think then it's part of a parent to react and say like, I see, you still like that activity, you don't like to be in that group. And I know time is something we all don't really have that much, but we thought certain things like we take the child away from it and do it as part of the family. So instead of being in a group of same-minded, like-minded age group children, to do it as part of the family, and we've seen certain things coming back. And I think going with age, and again, not scientifically backed up, let an older child decide for him or herself, because it builds the character, it builds decision making. And I think in the industries, we love decisiveness. Saying again, there's no worse decision than no decision. And I think that would help a child, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose that's one way to develop responsible decision making. But I think it's good that we as parents sort of put our finger on what is the hindrance here, right? Because something might be hindering them from liking something or interest, and we just want to make them aware, right? So self-awareness is important. So as parents, we can make them aware, right? I'm sure your parents did that to you, right? They must have spoken stuff to you, highlighted your strengths, you know, and brought up some stuff to you, right? So they made you aware of your interests. Like you were sharing just now about the people helping skills, right? You were people-oriented. And I think it's so important. Parents can play an important role to help your children be self-aware of what they like and their fears and stuff like that.
A degree from a reputable school is fantastic to have. But I think industry players are looking for more. In hospitality, we hire attitude, we hire behavior. I'm also very keen to hear from references and individuals that I know personally. How do you think about a certain individual? That builds trust. I think actually a reputable school is no longer enough. Certain schools have a reputation to create incredible academic results, backed up by industry experiences. And it's the University of Applied Studies and Research that I think have a lot of great value to give, because you have the academics, but you apply them in the real world. And if that is again the motivation of the graduate, where do you follow through? Do you want to be in the industry? Do you want to continue the academic side? Where do you want to go? Is there the desire to spend time in an office 5 days a week from 9 to 5, 9 to 6? Is there a different motivation to be exposed to something else that takes more time and interhuman relationships? And I think this is a quite a broad spectrum here to look at.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think attitude is really important. Of course, yeah, beyond a degree, I think at some point in your career, actually, nobody really looks at that part of your CV anymore. It's about your references, it's about the experience that you've gained. So to the question particularly, yes, it's good to have a degree. I know some employers probably still do look at the school, but the reality is that I think you should just pursue learning as much as you can and encourage your kids to pursue learning. It can come in many different forms. Whether or not you stand a better chance at securing job opportunities against your resilience, right? And sending out your CVs, pursuing opportunities. Yeah, so I would say, I mean, we all know the realities, right? There's some employers that probably do look at degrees and where they're from, but I think just be open-minded and encourage your kids if this is a challenge for them.
Yeah, I heard many hirers, they were telling me about, they're just not looking for degrees, they're looking for track record. They're looking for portfolio, right, Denise?
Yes.
Yeah. Portfolio, right?
Yes.
So you're building your portfolio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think building my portfolio is more important right now because it's more about the experiences that is like even my experiences in school, I feel like those are more important than where it came from, like what school it came from, because those experiences are what teaches you the soft skills that your employers may be looking for. It's also what teaches you, the school gets you the hard skills, but what really teaches you the soft skills is really the experiences that you have had throughout your life. So really, please just avail yourself the opportunities that are available, seek those opportunities out, and that is the determining factor that gets you that job.
Yeah. And I just met Denise today, and I'm so impressed by her. Right? By her thinking, by the way that she conducts herself, and she hasn't even finished her education, right? And so thank you, Denise. I'm so happy to meet you today.
I think it's certainly a starting point, right? Having a supportive environment. I think all the panelists seem to agree that having a supportive environment is so important. But in my experience, actually, I think how I turned out was, for me, anyway, I recall something that my dad said to me after I came home from exchange. I did exchange when I was in university. I studied in NUS and never left, so I studied there, I worked there, but I went on exchange in 2008 into London, and when he came back, he said one thing to me. He said, "You're a different person."
Wow.
I was just there for 6 months, and to me, I think it's also sometimes you gotta let the kids go and learn who they are and develop some independence. Yeah, don't shelter them too much. So I would say it's a combination of both family, school, and external factors. But I think it's that sweet spot, right? You need to know your kids very well, and sometimes I find personally also I have middle child syndrome. I don't like too much attention on myself. Yeah, and I think that has benefited me because I kind of just kept to my own. But again, depends how you as a parent know your kids, and then I think you need to communicate differently. Yeah.
That's nice. And I wonder if you guys have anything to add to this question.
Yeah, I would like to actually. I think the family is the glue that holds everything together, and what Melissa said, I agree to that as well, and I get back to that on a second. I think family has the responsibility to manage everything that happens in school, to support it, but also to in a way watch what is happening, because school is not only educational, it's break times, it's friends, etc., and other external factors. But the family is what holds everything together. The family is something that never leaves, and I agree. I think letting children go is priceless. I went away for a year when I was 16. Again, single mom, only child. Sorry, single child, only mom. And it changed me. She let me go study abroad as well, and I left when I was 28 completely. But when I come home, I'm coming home as her son, as her child, and that memory that I have, that feeling of belonging, even though I'm cornered here in Singapore now, is beyond anything. And I know there's one person that I call and trust, and that's family. She made me, our family made me who I am, what I am, how I believe, what values I have, I think as a son, I'm forever grateful with that.
Is there anything to add?
Yeah, so I think that family is more of like that support network. It's the most immediate support network that you have. So it's important for parents to have that close relationship with their kids, so that when kids fail or when their child fails, they know that they have someone to talk to. They know that, even though I failed, it's fine. I'm still loved, nothing changes, right? So it's what helps to, I think the family is what helps to process that failure and to move on from failure and view failure as a stepping stone rather than like the end. Yeah.
So family really, I work with a lot of families and parents, and sometimes they're broken. Sometimes they have a lot of relationship issues, and you try to break through, but you cannot. But what the children really want is they want someone to look at them in their face, in their eyes, and say that I believe in you. I love you, I believe in you. Even though you're so naughty, even though you're so annoying, even though you're so irritating, but I believe in you. And what they see a lot of times is anger in our eyes as parents. They see that you're not happy with them, and they interpret it as I'm a naughty boy. Right? Okay, I'm going to give the panel. We have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to give the panel just some time to say your last words of encouragement or anything else that you want to say to the parents and the educators and the students listening.
Okay, maybe I'll go first. So I think I just want to encourage you to keep trying. I think in this world where everything becomes more volatile, it's very easy to feel scared, to overthink, and to question ourselves. But please don't doubt yourselves. Please know that there's always a path for you. And even if you fail at any one point, it's not the end of your journey. So keep trying and you'll get there.
I'll pick up on what James just said. Unconditionally love, it's your child. And making that child successful and turning that child into a lovely young human being, that's the goal, and that deserves unconditional love.
For me, I think it's great that you're here joining us on this panel, and really appreciate the time, and it just goes to show that you're open to learning as well. And I think you continue to adopt that mindset, that growth mindset that we talked about, and continue to apply what we've shared and in your own context as well. I think that would be really great.
And we're talking about a world beyond school, right? Insights for a world beyond school. What's going to happen? And I want to suggest that to prepare our children for a world beyond school, we should focus on the present. Because right now, they can't even survive. Even you as a parent, you're struggling sometimes to survive in this world. What about the world beyond school, right? So focus on the present and try to link it. Behold the future, know what skills are needed, but focus on the present. That means develop our children with present tense skills, so they can help them in the future. So where do you get these skills, right? So there'll be some resources being shown to you at the MOE Facebook. Right now, you can check out these resources on 21st century skills. I think every parent, you need to look at that model and understand how it works. And then you bring it down to your child and work it with your child. It's going to be beautiful, okay? And school bag, articles written by different types of people, educators, some are just parents, and you can have a good read on different subjects, right? Diverse views. Skills Future portal, great for doing profiling tests, for the RIASEC test, great for other different things that are going on, like the Skills Future Festival, so you can check it out. And of course the MOE Parent Kit, right, which has so easily small size, bite size, simple, doable tips for parents. Okay, MOE Parent Kit. Okay, so you may screenshot and scan the QR code flashed on your screen to share your feedback for future sessions. So there are going to be future sessions, at least 2 more being planned. The dates are going to come out soon. Look out for all the information on your parent gateway, etc. And there'll be different panels. And so you're going to learn different things. And as you broaden your mind, as you broaden your mind, pick up some skills, try 1 or 2 things, I think you're going to be okay. So we're going to wish you all the best for your parenting journey, right? And we wish that you and your children be successful, right? In the present tense world and in the world beyond school. Thank you very much, parents. And
Bye.
educators.